Hello everybody, happy Thursday in June, early June, so the nights get a little cooler. I remember when the kids used to play softball, it would start off hot and then in the evening it'd be cool, like we needed a hoodie. But this is what Michigan, Southeast Michigan weather's supposed to be like in early June, still early June. And it's still a perfect time to plant things. You might as well go out and plant. And again, even if you can only plant one thing per day, that's 7 things per week. It takes less than 5 minutes to plant one plant. You can do this if you wanted to. And if you don't have an established garden, you can get containers. You can get a bucket and put holes in the bottom so it drains, and put some potting soil in there, and you could grow a tomato. You could grow a cucumber. You could grow a watermelon. Now, the tomato and the cucumber you need a trellis for, but the watermelon you do not. You could just let it sprawl all over the ground, and it would take up a lot of space with the vines. Probably about at least 10 by 10 for your watermelon. But a tomato on a trellis, then you're just going up, or even just a stick that you tie it to, or you could put a tomato cage in a container, and it would do the same thing. And anyway, it's not too late. And remember, I talked about earlier in a couple videos back, couple live videos back, about short season vegetables. That if you look at the packet of seeds, you can see how long it takes you from the time the seed goes in the soil until the time actually the fruit or vegetable produces fruit, until the time to harvest. So you can see how long it will be. Some are short, like 30 days, like a cabbage or a lettuce or a radish. Some are 60 days. Some are 100 days, like a pumpkin, or 120 days. It just depends. Corn is 90 days. And what you do is you go to you figure out what the last frost date is. And from our area, Macomb Township area, that last frost date is usually about the middle of October. That's probably the safe bet for the hard frost. So in a hard frost, everything that is not a perennial dies. So if it's an annual, all the leaves and stems and stuff die back in a hard frost. And that's usually about October 15th. So if you count backward from October 15th to today, you can find out how many days you have left to grow things. And you can start growing, and there's nothing wrong with it. And this week is going to be rainy again, so it's a great time. I think it's going to be rainy for the next, I gotta get it for the next week. It's going to rain every day for the next week, and so that means you don't have to water. If you put it in now, today, and it rains every day, make sure it actually does rain, then you don't have to bother watering for like a week. And so if you haven't put something in the ground yet, or in a pot, or started something for yourself or your family or your neighbors, your friends, go ahead and do that. It's not too late. If you go to the greenhouses right now, a lot of the stock is very low. So you're going to want to, go to the greenhouses soon if you're going to put stuff in the ground that you didn't grow from seed yourself. Recently, I was at Hessel's in, I think that's in Shelby. Might be Macomb Township. But Hessel's, Hessells, they still have quite a few herbs and veggie starts. They're really good for that. They have fennel and dill and basil and oregano and, all those different things that you could grow. Those are short kind of season plants, and they like the shade. They don't like it in the full sun, and they will go to seed. They will bolt really quickly if you get them, and you put them in the sunshine. So put them in the shade, or at least partial shade, or use taller plants to shade the smaller plants. So if the sun's coming this way, shining this way, the taller plant's going to throw shade on it, and that's a good thing for it. And then it'll go to seed a lot less quickly. They do have slow bolt, they call it slow bolt cilantro, and that actually takes longer to actually go to seed, which is good because cilantro is really fussy. Like once you put it in the sun, it's like, it's time to make seeds and make babies and I'm dying. And so I have to reproduce myself right away. That's how cilantro is. And that's how it sounds too. It sounds just like a whiny little baby. And so You can get the slow bolt, and that takes a little bit longer before it actually decides to go to seed and then turn bitter, and then you can't use it at all. Anyway, I just was going to tell you that I just finished planting in a client's place in Madison Heights. They want the fence covered, the back fence covered in vines, and they said they didn't want flower vines, which was fine. But I learned that after I did some research into different vines. A couple of requirements I had for the vines is they couldn't be invasive. Like Morning Glory is really invasive, super invasive, and it goes everywhere you don't want it to go. It's really not a great plant to put on anything that you care about or that might affect other areas of your garden and your yard. Morning Glory. And they drop seeds all over. So they do reseed. If you're looking for a vine that reseeds, that's fine for reseeding. But keep in mind that the birds will grab the seeds and then they'll throw them, or they'll go through their system and they'll poop them out. And then the Morning Glory will grow everywhere you don't want it to go. And it's not one of those vines that's super easy to pull out either. So decide first what you're going to put in there. Don't just plop anything there, because it won't necessarily work out for you. Now, peas. Regular peas like sweet peas or pea pods, they really only grow about maybe a foot tall. Is that a foot? I don't know. About a foot tall, maybe 18 inches tall, and they like the cool. So they only like it in the spring and the fall. If you're trying to shield the whole, like a metal fence for the suburbs, it's not going to make it all the way up. So those kind of peas that you eat aren't going to work very well. Now there's the sweet pea vine, which grows like pink and white and blue flowers. It's really pretty, but that also likes it cool. So once our summertime heat comes in and it's dry and it's hot, those vines tend to melt away a little bit. You can try them. Sweet pea vine, they do grow taller than the regular peas that you eat. Those are fine. Some vines are poisonous for animals, so you don't want to plant those. Hyacinth vine is one of those. There are a couple others that were poisonous for dogs. That was another consideration I had to have. So it had to last through the summer. Had to cover the fence really well, as much as possible. It had to grow really long. And then after I did all the research, I found out they didn't want flowers, which was kind of good because it eliminated a whole lot of different things. Some people will grow trumpet vine. Trumpet vine can get out of hand too. Trumpet vine doesn't necessarily, it can spread by seed, but a lot of times it will spread like with runners underground, and then all of a sudden you're got trumpet vine all over the place, which again, if it's a spot where you don't care about, or you're trying to cover a stump, or your mailbox is, 2 miles from your house down your driveway or something like that, then trumpet vine is fine. Just like Morning Glory would be fine if you wanted to do that. I wanted to start them off with an annual because I didn't know, this is something new for their yard, and I wanted to make sure they actually like the look of green all on the fence. So I didn't want to put perennials in yet. You could put in Clematis. It takes a little while to establish. They do look beautiful. Clematis likes their feet shaded and their arms and body in the sun. So you have to think about that. Either you plant them behind other plants, or you plant low-growing plants in front of them. Or sometimes people will get a big boulder and they'll put the clematis behind the boulder. That keeps their feet shaded and it keeps their body and their arms in the sun. So that would be clematis. And they come in all different colors and shapes and sizes. Here's a double white, like puffy clematis that looks really nice. I thought about for that. But again, I didn't want to put perennials in yet because they take a little while to establish, and I wanted to make sure they're committed to having vines on the fence each year. And then he said he didn't want flowers, so that's good. The other thing I thought about was they have climbing jasmine, which they have the little white star, like star-shaped flowers, and they're very small, but they're very, very fragrant. And I thought that would be a nice touch. I don't think that they were. Okay, talking about vines. Talking about Spanish flag vine. It starts red at the top as the petals of the flowers die off, then they turn orange, and toward the bottom they're like yellow white. They look really cool. I don't see them stocked in the nurseries. I've looked all around for those, so it's probably something I'd have to start from seed. So this can't be for this, that can't be for this year, for that particular client. So there's all kinds of different vines that could go up. He doesn't want flowers. I didn't want perennials, and I didn't want anything that was poisonous to the dog. And I think I'm going to do like a lesson about vines. And I might sing like, vines, vines, everywhere's vines. Choking up the scenery, breaking my mind. Do this, don't do that. Don't you see the vines? I know you got to be like a certain age to understand that song, but hopefully I didn't break your ears, and that's okay. So I do have plenty of notes about vines that I took. And what I decided on, Tam, so you're babbling all about vines, and what did you decide on? I decided on pole beans. They had some starter packs at Hessel's, and pole beans and climbing spinach. Pole beans and climbing spinach. And so what the challenge is that now I knew that there's a lot of, they had to put down a lot of mulch, like in a pathway, and I knew it was going to be deep. But when I got there, what I was looking for was some soil to put the plants in, and so I had to pull back, 3-4 inches of mulch, and then underneath the mulch were bricks, because their dog would try to like dig under the fence, which I get it. That's cool. So I had to pull back bricks, and then underneath the bricks, underneath the bricks was landscape fabric. So I had to cut through the landscape fabric to get to the actual soil. But when I got to the soil is beautiful. So I'm hoping that, and it's like at a slope downward. It's like a depression area of the yard. So I'm hoping that the rain will just kind of fall down in that area and water the beans pretty well and the spinach. And not only will they have greenery all over the fence, because pole beans, they just want to grow too. They just like to grow. The climbing spinach, they may have to put up on, they may have to assist it to grow. But the pole beans, once they start getting those little clingers, then they go crazy. And they look for anything to cling to. I mean, when I have pole beans growing, any kind of beans like that, they're reaching out to my other little plants. And like, if there's a plant that's sticking out like chives, their little thing comes up and it like wraps around the little chive, just trying to grab it so it can grow upward. So pole beans are a great choice for just putting them in and letting them grow. They do need some decent soil. So if I had gotten underneath the landscape fabric and it was sandy or clay or rocky, I would have had to add compost. I would have had to add, some decent soil, or at least some potting soil, something in there to make sure that the beans could survive. As it is, I may have them go and put like some fertilizer down, maybe in a couple weeks. Like put some fertilizer in a watering can, and do some water soluble stuff just to make sure those beans have got enough nutrients to survive, which they probably will. And then the climbing spinach, he's going to have to make sure that it is touching the fence or like wrapped in through the links. It's a link fence. So those are the ones I decided on. Anything you're deciding to plant, you have to make sure you've got access to the soil. If you don't have access to the soil, you can make a mound of soil. It's just good if you can make a depression in the ground first, even if it's in the mulch. Like even if you had to like dig out enough mulch to make like a little cup shape to put the soil in, it can be done, and then you can put your plant in the soil. Now, if you could, if you had to do that, if you'd layer newspaper first in that depression that you make out of the mulch or rocks or whatever it is, and then put the soil in, then your soil's not just going to run out from the watering, and then you can have some soil for the beans or whatever it is that you're going to put in. There was a lot of soil with the climbing spinach, So I was able to take some of that from the pot and just kind of supplement into the different holes for the beans. But I'm really curious to see how that's going to turn out. I'm excited about it. It's a fun experiment, and this client they're very willing to like try different things, which is kind of fun too. So just wanted to tell you about that, and I will tell you a little bit more about vines in a different time. I will probably do like a mini presentation, probably through Loom, and I'll show you slides. It won't be death by PowerPoint because I don't believe in death by PowerPoint, but I do a lot of pictures. I do like to provide a lot of pictures so that you can learn more with your eyeballs as you're listening. So that's what I did today. I have been feeling really crappy the last couple days, like bad, like some kind of stomach bug or something. I did manage to get a shower, and then I came out here and put those in so they don't get all root bound and die in the pots, because the ones that I got, the beans I got, were in starter packs, and they were already probably at least 6 to 8 inches tall, and they had put like 3 seeds in each little hole. I mean, they were like 2 by 3 size cells, and there were already 3 coming up through there, so they needed to get in the ground. And I wanted to also use the weather that's going to be happening to get them off to a good start, just to make sure. So again, if you haven't put something in the ground yet, or in a pot yet, or somewhere, do that. Please do that soon. Do that today, do it tomorrow, do it the next day. If you just do one plant a day, then, I mean, what, after 2 weeks, you got 14 different things you could have. But even if you just have one, start with one. That's okay. If you're a new gardener, especially. New gardeners, you can start with zinnias, cosmos, sunflowers. They're very forgiving. They just love to grow. Like I said, beans, they just love to grow. Grow. So be encouraged. You can do things like this. It doesn't take too much. It doesn't take a whole lot of money. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort. And it doesn't have to be fancy. You don't need a lot of special chemicals or tools or anything else like that. I mean, sometimes I'm out there, I'm taking plants out of their cells with a fork, and I'm digging in the dirt with a fork, literally a table fork. And my husband's probably going to wonder where all my forks are going, but so be it. Or I'm using like a tongue depressor, like a craft stick. It doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be fancy. If you have any access to any soil in your yard, you can grow something. So try it and see what happens. And yes, there are critters. Yes, there are ways to manage critters. And if you wanted a garden consult, you can go ahead and contact me. I think my previous live video a couple days ago, I talked about what's involved in a garden consultation. And I'm going to be providing a little bit of samples from other clients so that you can kind of see what you might get. Anyway, that's it. This is Tammy Lowe, the Lazy Northern Gardener, and maybe I'll get a pedicure. Depends on how my stomach feels too. I might have to go home sooner than that. I don't know. And then I'm hoping I can get some rest, and maybe I can get my regular work in tomorrow. Depends on how I feel, but just right now, knock on wood, I'm feeling okay. So, the Tammy Lowe, Lazy Northern Gardener, encouraging you to learn and grow and learn and grow. I love y'all, and I will catch you later. Bye.